We need to talk about Cenk Uygur's statement about defunding the police. You know, it's really interesting to me because I've noticed like Cenk Uygur, TYT, they like to point to other people that may have worked with their network at some time or another. They like to point to those people as right wing now. And I don't think I have to say any names. I think you know what I'm talking about. They like to point to those people as right wing. They're using right wing framing, right wing messaging. But I've seen them do right wing framing when it comes to the police. In fact, here's one right now. So Cenk Uygur tweeted this. Will people who came up with defund the police slogan admit they were wrong? I'm just going to pause there for a second because there's something I got to say about that. Will people who came up with defund the police slogan admit they were wrong? Question. Who were the people? Where did defund the police come from? It came from Black Lives Matter. Now, we can argue about the organization, the money that the organization has taken, and we can argue all about that. And I get that. As an organization, yes, they've turned it into a profit. Totally 100% agree. But predominantly, it was Black people that were a part of that movement asking you to defund the police. So let's put that out there first and keep that in mind when you listen to the rest of his talking point. It was wildly counterproductive framing. You don't speak for the left. Let's highlight this. You don't speak for the left. I just told you guys where it came from. It came from Black Lives Matter. After years of police violence against unarmed Black people, that's what it came from. So this talking point here where he says you don't speak for the left, they weren't trying to speak for the left. They were trying to speak for Black people who were unarmed, who were being killed by the police. Do you guys see the problem with the framing? And I told you back then, this should have never been a left-right issue. That's not how this started. This was a human rights issue. This is a social justice issue. They allowed for politicians to come in, and that's how it was pushed as a left or a liberal issue. This is why you can't have them come in. Whether you're Black Lives Matter, whether you're any other type of grassroots movement, you cannot allow the politicians in DC to come in. They co-opt it, they take a hold of it, and now something that was a social justice issue has now become labeled as a Democrat thing. Let's go on. And neither do people pushing the counterproductive abolish prisons. Again, who are the people? Predominantly, it's mainly Black people. Polls show that almost no one on the left agrees with you. Polls show that almost no one on the left agrees with you. I want to remind you, left and liberal are two different things. Liberals are fine with the status quo. Leftists are not. And I'm telling you that because when he says polls show that almost no one on the left agrees with you, again, this message came from Black Lives Matter. It was Black people, predominantly Black people, asking you to defund the police. The majority of African Americans in the United States are not leftists. They are neoliberals. I'm going to say it again. When we're talking about people who vote, the majority of African Americans in this country who vote are neoliberals, not leftists, not progressives, not socialists, not Marxists. This needs to be distinguished. We need to talk about this. Because I can tell you, as someone who heavily supported Bernie Sanders, someone who went to Bernie Sanders rallies, there weren't that many people that looked like me there. There were more Black people who came out to see Kamala Harris. There were more Black people who came out to see Hillary Clinton. There were more Black people that came out to see Joe Biden. Do you see the problem? He's talking about two different things. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. Going back in, he goes on, believe it or not, you can't claim to speak for the left if polls indicate that actual human beings who are on the left don't like your ideas. In other words, Black people, you can't claim to be on the left. White leftists don't like your ideas. That's really what he's saying. That's really what he is saying. I hope everybody calls this out. You hear me? Do you see it now? And if they like your ideas, but you bungled it by making your ideas sound worse through the names and the framing, then that's you. Do better. In other words, Black people do better. Everyone needs to call this out. This is the problem with the professional managerial class leftists like Cenk Uygur, like Ana Kasparian. This is the problem with them. They're all about left policies and issues until it's something that may affect them. Because let's be real, police don't protect poor people. Police protect rich people. They protect wealth. They protect capital. That's what police protect. Police are not protecting Black people in the inner city in Baltimore. And don't try to tell me they are, because I'm from there and I know. Let's be real. This is about people like Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian making sure that their wealth and capital and property is protected. That's why they don't want you to defund the police. They don't want you to defund the police and give the money to low-income Black and brown communities and invest in those communities because they're afraid secretly, they won't say this out loud, but I'm going to tell you, they're afraid you might get a leg up and they may see more of you in their community. Call it out. They're millionaires. And I noticed too, let me see if it's still here. Let me see if he's still here. I saw David Pakman chime in too. And of course he agreed with this. And he's another one. People need to stop calling David Pakman a leftist. David Pakman is a liberal. I'm calling it like I see it tonight. Now, if people like Cenk Uygur would have taken the time to talk to people who are abolitionists, to talk to people like those who organized 10 demands for justice, Nick, my comrade at RBN, was one of those people who organized 10 demands for justice. He would know about the road to abolition. But he won't talk to them. This is 10 demands for justice. To set the stage for abolition, there are 10 demands. Defund the police and reallocate resources to impacted communities. If you click on each demand, it goes into detail. I'm not going to do that for each one. We'll be here for a while if I do that, but I'm going to highlight all the demands. 2, demilitarize the police. Why would Cenk Uygur be in favor of having a militarized police? Do you see what happens when they don't talk to people who are actually the abolitionists? Let's go back in. 3, eliminate discriminatory policing, prosecution, and sentencing. Why would Cenk Uygur have a problem with that? 4, institute complete law enforcement transparency and accountability. Why would he have a problem with that? 5, independently investigate all police crimes and abuses of power. Do you guys see any problem with these demands so far? Because I do not. 6, install community representation, oversight, and safety measures. Don't see a problem with it. 7, end strategic counter-protest violence. Absolutely. 8, apologize and provide reparations. 100%. 9, end the war on drugs. And I've said this before, whether you agree or not, drugs should be decriminalized. Drugs should be legal in this country. What someone else chooses to put in their body is none of my business. Moving on to number 10, end carceral punishment. And they go into detail about how to do it. Now, this is from 10 demands. This is the group. A group of activists came together and came up with this. You have On, you have Awkward. Awkward's really big on police abolition. Cheyenne, Jen, there's Nick from RBN, Petrona, and Zoya. I would like to see Cenk Uygur talk to the activists of 10 Demands. Talk to the founders of 10 Demands about police abolition instead of making these wildly, somewhat semi-racist dog whistle statements on Twitter, making you look like a fool. That's what I would like to see. And I call it like I see it. And more people need to call it out.